losing interest in XRP as an investment? Let's first see what does the giant institutions look for the coming years, and then understand how the retail investors perceive the current situation, so that we'll understand what to do, how to react. Because again, if the majority are losing the interest in the market, then that is a good thing for those who understand the market. Firstly, let's listen to what Howard Marks says about the situation and how to actually deal with the current situation.
But people have feelings, and people rarely do what they're supposed to do, and they often react in the extreme to the events that develop, and those extreme reactions cause this extreme volatility. They overreact to things, and sometimes they don't react at all, and sometimes they don't react as they should. So I think that if you want to exist in the investment world, and you want to, you can just buy and hold good things if you want to take that approach. But if you want to improve upon that, I think it's very important to understand the ebb and flow of psychology and act accordingly.
So in the general investment market, it is clear that human psychology varies a lot, and it may actually push the price too much high or even too much down. But when we say that, keep in mind, this happens in both directions, right? So at the same time, he also states buying and holding good things is one of the point, but you can actually improve upon that by understanding the market cycle, where we are at that market cycle. So if we look at that, one of the point which he said is kind of that we have a lot of movement or we don't have any movement. So at that point, we are currently somewhere near that, right? We don't have much of a fluctuation. We are still at that bottom. So what does that actually make? So we have to understand people actually fear this and they are jumping ship, or at least they are dumping this one. So those who still hold need something to actually to hold on.
I mean, I kept thinking about what Roosevelt said: the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. People were just afraid. They weren't afraid of anything rational. They were just afraid. And what you had to do is you had to keep your wits. And you know, one of the hopes is that if you read history, if you read the book, if you understand cycles, you will be able to reduce the emotional influences at that time.
So being a human being who's here to make profit, we are investors. So in the other side, as a investor, as a human being, we have emotions, right? So the psychology has to be controlled in a manner that we can actually see the fundamentals and how they are actually increasing. Say a recent document shows a lot of potential is coming ahead, and you know, there are others which kind of supports that the fact is that, and the Silicon Valley can actually provide a new world digital currency. So these kind of perspectives are still there, and some document which actually shows how this can actually evolve, and then these perspective actually shows us this is happening in the background. But when the price is actually falling like this and we are kind of at the bottom of the entire cycle, majority's psychology is low and they don't actually want to continue more, right? They are not yet here to continue and buy.
Or not. And what we said was that it's hard to predict the end of the financial world. If you conclude that the financial world will end, it's hard to have any idea what to do. And most of the time, the financial world doesn't end. We also made a very simple calculation. Should we buy or not? Well, if we invest and the financial world ends, kind of doesn't matter. But if we don't invest and the financial world doesn't end, then we didn't do our job. So by that, you know, here we are in an environment where really people had no idea what was coming next, and we're talking about the end of the world. And I thought the analysis was rather simple.
So if we actually keep things simple and look at what actually is going on with these projects and how the fundamentals are evolving, the geopolitics are evolving, and how things are actually being implemented, then looking at the price and the market cycle, now I know there's a lot of people who kind of don't understand technical analysis and they directly states, no, it doesn't actually work for cryptos. So XRP, this is a chart of XRP USD on a daily, and you can see that this is a digital asset, right? So if you believe that this doesn't work on this one, just look at these lines and the points where the price is actually reacting. So if you consider this as a trend line resistance, price or the investors and traders who are trading this market kind of respects this particular level from a long time. If you look at that, it's way back from 2018. So that's a long-term resistance line. Now, it's up to you whether you can actually take it or not, but based on the concept and emotional psychology of a human being, what we get here is something like more and more. So to understand that, there are some more things which we actually need to get it from, investors like Howard Marks directly, so that, a middleman like me can be taken out and my perspectives would be set aside. But the experience and expertise of Howard Marks can be counted on, right? So then we'll actually come back to check the price here, and then we'll actually detail how things are actually evolving, which is kind of pushing out and keeping the name Ripple in standard documents, which other projects doesn't actually have this kind of speciality where they are being highlighted in documents, where it is so essential to become there in the new financial world.
That we don't think about when is the turn going to come or when is the bottom going to come. And in fact, when is one of the words I reject in our business, because we sometimes have an idea what's going to happen and we never know when.
Now, the problem with the digital assets or cryptocurrency space is, as of now, we have a lot of newbies entering the space. Now, we should be respecting them and saying, guys, this is like this, the investment area kind of works like this. But the problem is everyone actually want to know when. If you look at comment section of majority of the YouTube content providers who are providing data for, say for example, just take XRP, you'll see that majority comes in and ask when this is actually going to happen, when this is going to come in. But you kind of have an idea if you do proper technical and fundamental analysis of everything from last cycle to current cycle, you'll understand what is going to happen, and there is an idea or a probability of calculated guess which actually gives you the momentum. Say for example, for me, if it breaks out, we'll look for a retest and then bounce up, then make a new high, accept all these resistance lines, and then look at what are the fundamentals which kind of pushes this thing happening in terms of price, right? But for newbies or those who are just concerned about the price, they ask when it's gonna happen. But the real investors who are handling, now this guy's from Oak Tree Capital from US, and they handle 120 billion. Now that was back in 2018. I don't know how much they are actually holding now or managing now, but do understand those who actually make profit is doing like this. So it's up to you whether you act like a whale or you act like a rat.
The turns that matter, you see, the market is a little bit volatile. I mean, the economy is a little bit volatile. Sometimes it's up 3 and sometimes it's up 1 and sometimes it's down 1. Company profits are more volatile because companies are leveraged, operating and financial. But market prices do this because they're driven by people. By people's emotion, by what we call human nature. And so to figure out when things are going to happen, you would have to be able to predict emotion, which is impossible. And so we don't ever think about when at Oak Tree. We think, and one of my mottos is, we never know where we're going, but we sure as hell ought to know where we are.
Now, even after getting this directly from Howard Marks, we can actually see if you go to even YouTube or any other content providing area, guys actually comes out and say like, this date it's gonna moon, maybe 1 week, maybe tomorrow, maybe 1 month. But guys, keep in mind that if you don't have a proper basis so for what you are saying, then directly don't just go and digest that one, because first of all, you are investing your hard-earned money here and you actually want to know the fact what is going to happen, what are the probability that this will actually occur, right? So at that point we can actually understand people's emotion are really hard to predict. But one thing is for sure, that there is a cycle which is playing. in which every human being is coming in. Even if you consider this long cycle from 2014 to 2017, you can actually understand there were fundamentals which were actually happening. We went through a lot of documents which were from 2015 to 2017, right? So if you actually look at that, you will understand even during that 2015, 2016, 2017, when there was a lot of fundamentals happening, the price was still not reflecting that. But at one point, the price started reflecting the fundamental and it just skyrocketed, right? So as of now, if you look from last 2 years, say from 2018 to as of now, there's a lot of change happening in the fundamental area. The entire financial industry is changing and the world is actually looking at some aspects of a new world digital currency, so which is becoming say a reserve currency. So the potential for that is not negligible, and we actually saw in research documents which are being cited by supranational organizations states that for world trade there can be a possibility of a digital currency. Now it is talking about taking that digital currency, making it asset backed. Now we just saw gold backed digital currency being announced, or kind of idea being advocated by CME and all. Now when we actually talk about CME, we also get that CME group is kind of invested in Ripple, and Ripple is a Silicon Valley company, right? And when we talk about a digital currency coming from the Silicon Valley, they talk about Libra here, and they say that, you know, because of Libra having the issues and the energy consumption, it, you know, the chances for that is low. Now it's not directly from my opinion. Instead, I'll take you guys through the document where it actually talks in the same perspective. Now before that, we'll have to listen to the rest what Howard says, because that gives us a bit more clarity while reading through this document. We can actually understand where we are in the market cycle and what's actually happening in the market and what we can do.
One of the outstanding characteristics of financial markets is shortness of memory. Now, it's not that people are stupid or their brains don't work, but what it is that sitting here on this shoulder, you have memory of the past and resulting prudence. And you say, well, you know, the last time the market went up this much and this fast and this far, bad things happened. And the last time the PE ratio was 20 and so forth, and the spread was inverted or whatever you want to look at, bad things happen. So I'm going to cut my risk. That's sitting here. On this shoulder, you have greed. Greed wins.
Now that is a simple explanation, right? Now if we look at this, we actually understand that in the last market cycle, this actually happened. When we had less volatility, if you consider this as a volatility in 2014, 2015, in the two pumps and then the dumps, you can actually see something similar. A pump, then, you know, dump. Then one again we had a pump, then dump, and we were having, you know, kind of a downward momentum with less volatility. We actually had the same there, and at the same time when that was happening, we were actually getting things in the side of fundamental for this particular asset. It's being concreted and, you know, it's being erected in one way that it's actually gonna become a reserve currency, or at least a global bridge asset for fiat, digital fiats. So in that aspect, when we actually understand this, you actually know that this happened previously and the chances are that this is going to happen again. But, you know, he was actually talking about a bullish case, whereas what we have now is a different one. So for us, it's not greed, it's fear. So in the previous occasion, I just showed you guys what fear is about, right, in investing. So fear, only you have to fear itself, and there is no rationality if you are going out of cash, or say if you are going into cash or a different asset, only because you fear this particular asset won't appreciate in price. And that's one of the foolish thing to do. Now that's not just my opinion, you just heard directly from Howard Marks. Now if you actually go to this video, say around 4 minutes 50 seconds, you get a bit more perspective.
And it has 21 chapters, and each chapter says the most important thing is, and then it's a different thing. Because, you know, I would find myself sitting in a client's office and I would say the most important thing is controlling risk. And 5 minutes later, I'd say the most important thing is buying cheap. And 5 minutes later, I'd say the most important thing is knowing where we stand in the cycle or something like that. So I wrote this.
So understand this, investing money and making profit from this. If someone come to you and says like, that's easy to do, then he's kind of either lying or he don't know what he's talking about. there is a lot of things which you have to actually consider. So at the same time, you actually have to understand different factors of the market, like where you stand in that market cycle, how you actually manage your risk or control your risk, right? So as we just heard, there are a lot of factors to be considered. So if you only go through technicals, you may miss out on the fundamentals. If you only go through the fundamentals, you actually miss out the price history, how the investors and traders reacted at certain price points, right? So if we look at the near future of this near past of this market cycle, we actually understand we were actually traveling in symmetrical triangles from a lot of way. Now if we look at that, even in the previous history for XRP, we actually went through the same. Now when we actually understand that, it is important to actually check different factors, because it's not only that one thing it's going to make you rich, it's a lot of things. So in the previous one, Howard directly stated that buying and holding good assets. So how you understand that the asset is good? You need the fundamentals to actually forecast and show you the same direction, right? So now I'm going to take you to that fundamental side where you can actually directly understand that this really is happening. Now this is just, now the document is actually a bit huge one, so we don't have time to go through that. So in the summary on this one, you can actually understand, it shows you that while cash will still stay, coming decade will see digital payments grow at light speed. So what is Ripple, the company, focusing on, and XRP or Ripple, the asset, focusing on? So over next 5 years, we expect mobile payments to comprise 2/5 of in-store purchases in US. So we are not only talking about cross-border payments, it's the entire payments industry which is going to actually shift into new business model, right, based on the technology. So at the same time, you can actually see here, as China and India develop electronic, crypto and peer-to-peer strategies, the epicenter of global economic power could shift. Now we completely agree on that point. Say for example, China has already rolled out their digital currency, but still you have to understand, many are skeptical about digital currencies, citing the large energy needs, and point out that currencies such as Bitcoin and Facebook's Libra have encountered significant regulatory hurdles. So keep that in mind. They are directly stating the name of Bitcoin and Facebook's Libra and saying these are having skeptical opinions, mainly because they consume a lot of energy so that the network can actually smoothly operate. So now you have another network here which doesn't even need that energy, but it can deliver even better experience for their customers, and the customers itself are actually coming out and comparing it with the legacy system which is there from last 40-50 years, right? So that gives you an opinion that it actually can come up as the new world currency. And when we actually go into this article showing that CME Group's investment in Ripple, the company, you can actually understand CME Ventures actually have invested in Ripple. And being a Silicon Valley company, when we actually talk about new world digital currency coming from Silicon Valley, chances are that it can actually happen. Based on all the different documents we went through, we can actually understand how the things are evolving. And at the same time, when we look at the price, in this particular video, you can understand that Bitcoin is ahead, whereas XRP is behind. Why? Because I think XRP is behind, meaning the price of that asset is behind. It's not the adoption rate, it's not about the fundamentals, just the emotions of investors. They have actually kept this asset down. Now, if you actually look at this one, this is for Bitrue and exchange. Now we understand that the financial world is considering the cryptocurrency exchanges or digital asset exchanges as a financial service. In, if you look at Canada, if you look at different parts of the world, it's actually happening one by one. They're actually giving this one. So the permission to act as a financial service provider for exchanges is now having green light, and they are working on that. So if you actually look at 2018 to as of now, you can understand a lot of things are changing. The evolution of XRP for one particular company is like this. And if you actually look at all the different 350 to 500 customers of Ripple, in which say how many are dealing with XRP, how they are actually encouraging this digital asset space. So automatically, if you consider the bear market from last 2.5 years, from 2018, the price is going down, but the fundamentals are actually increasing day by day. It's getting stronger hour by hour, right? So if you actually consider this and think as an investor looking at the price, you'll understand what to do. If the price is going low and the fundamental is so high, and that's where you actually have to consider buy low, sell high. But seeing this line here, don't think that it's actually only gonna go to the upside, because keep in mind this particular resistance line was being respected from a long time, and chances are still there that it can still act as resistance. So if you actually zoom in and look at that, you understand that the price went up again, and as it reached that target, it is still respecting that resistance line. The price is kind of having a bit of resistance there. So if we don't manage to break above this, then that kind of gives you a signal that we are gonna go down. And when we say down, the bottom or the support line here is somewhere around 0.099. So that's say 0.01. So if you look at that, you also have a horizontal support around 0.12. Considering where we are in the price, if you take in percentage, that's still around 30 to 40% drop in terms of price. So if you consider from the bottom, we actually went up 50-60%, meaning 100% from 0.1 to around 0.23. So we went around 100% up. Now we are again going to go down. Now when I say that, that's based on the technical aspect, but the fundamental actually suggests to you that it's actually increasing, and if the price is actually going down, in my opinion, for me, that's a buying opportunity which I won't actually waste. Now this tweet from XRP Buddha actually shows TAS Group considers Ripple an emergent standard in 2015. Now it's 2020. We went through a lot of different documents. We saw the new ISO standard stepping in, right? And if you actually read through that, you actually understand all payments types are actually going to a new format. We understand that based on now, right? Where we are standing. The current affairs shows us directly that. And then isolated systems interfaces improve productivity and quality of upgrades and replacement necessary for compliance with new regulatory changes and emergent standards, example Ripple. So new regulations were being talked by the research groups and financial industry from last 5 years. And when we actually talk about this, the newbies who are here in last year, this year, can actually say, like, I have actually seen them commenting like, this is not going to happen in next 50 years. This is not going to happen in next 100 years, because it's just getting started now. No, it's not getting started now. It's kind of getting to the end of regulatory era now, meaning even if it can be delayed, it may take a couple of years more for the perfect regulation, say maximum 2 to 3 years. And then if that is going to happen in 3 years time, investors won't actually wait at till the last moment to jump in and invest. Once they have a clear idea that this is going to happen, automatically they'll be coming in and diving into this asset as an investment. Now in this particular video from XRP Dummy, it actually shows Trump stating a gold standard. Now in the last video, we detailed about how a gold standard can come in based on the total holdings of gold and the requirement for cross-border payments, one fiat to another. If they need to keep that stable, then they actually need more reserves to actually support the entire payments, because just the payments phase is $250 trillion around the world. So you don't have enough gold to actually back it up, or otherwise gold's price should be, say currently it's around 1,800, 1,900. Say it should be pushed to around 4,000 or 5,000 till you get only 20 trillion, right? So automatically that doesn't actually work in that way. So it's for sure that central banks are looking at a new type of payment and a new infrastructure. Now when I say new infrastructure, in yesterday's video we actually detailed that Ripple, the company, is actually providing the regulators, payment space, banks and others a new infrastructure, a technology on which they can actually stand upon and monitor the transaction and other different parameters, right? Now if you look at US faster payments, here at the technology provider area, you can actually see Ripple, Pat Tellen representing Ripple. So if you neglect this or not, that's actually up to you, but the reality is showing that it is going in that way. And when we actually see as China and India develop these systems, China has already went in and done that. Now if you actually look at India, you can see this one. Now this is not the old one, it's relatively a new one. So it actually states Ripple outlines 4 crucial steps to push cryptocurrencies in India. So automatically, one by one, regulation, step by step, it's actually coming. But because of the politicians and the legacy infrastructure there, it can actually take some time to actually move into a new infrastructure. But it may actually surprise us that from 2017 to 2018 there was a lot of adoption in terms of banking customers and financial institutions coming into RippleNet. So that can be like, that's something hidden, and it can act as a surprise once they directly say, no, we're actually going in, we're going to do this. Because in between, we are getting this drama like we're going to ban this, we won't ban this, we're going to ban this, we are not banning that. So we're actually seeing that kind of stuff again and again. Now, how central banks might create a new world digital currency. Now, we actually went from a lot of different central banks, central bank governors, their reports, and one thing which we understood that is any unipolar system is unsuited to a multipolar world. So they are actually looking for a technology or a system in which they all can survive, they all can actually interact with each other based on new standards, which can be said as ISO 20022. Now, previously when Mike Carney suggests this, rather than a single CBDC, central banks could create a network of digital currencies due to developments in faster payments. So when that happens, we discussed yesterday, like say for example, central bank is coming up with their own CBDC, say let it be hybrid CBDC, retail CBDC, anything. But at the same time, banks can actually come up like say for example, JPM coin. So each company coming up with their own token with central bank digital currency, they can actually interact between. So in order to do that, they need a scalable system that now scalable, interoperable, these all parameters or factors kind of directly jump into XRP ledger and ILP, and ILP's entire design is kind of associated with this thing, right? The idea that every different walled garden can be connected and move value and information together instantly, instantaneously, without that friction, and cheaply, gives that idea that this is actually moving in to a new infrastructure. So that is kind of something which is kind of confirmed. And when we actually talk about that, they also go through different cryptocurrencies which are there and their functionalities. But what you have to understand is when they talk about the digital trade coin, we actually went through this previously in one of our old video. What you should have is that there are some things which the distributed ledger technology can actually bring in. So when we actually go through this, we can actually understand digital trade coin means one country to another country, when they trade between each other using their fiats, they can actually use this one to bridge their fiat currencies. Now, XRP was intended as a bridge currency for central banks, commercial banks, and everyone doing that cross-border payments. Now, as we actually went through these, we actually understood that the fundamentals are kind of getting stronger and stronger, just the price is going down. But at one point, price is going to start reflect this one. If you look at the previous time, we were also going down, 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 and down. But at one point, we just broke above that long-term resistance line and then came back and retested it like say 50%. It came back and retested, and then it consolidated in that particular area and went to the upside. Now remember, market cycles tend to rhyme itself. So if you believe this or not, investors are human beings, and human emotions are sometimes not actually predictable in terms of time, but it is kind of predictable in terms of value, where it can actually take us. If you analyze the percentage of fluctuation from last time, this time, and the bear market, bull market, you'll actually understand there is a possibility of investing in this space and making profit from that. Hope you guys actually understood the content which I am actually trying to illustrate. And if you saw value in the content, please do support the channel, hit that like button. And if you're new here, do support the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.